There it is. Yeah, I like this song, man. I think you mix this into the rotation. This would be in your wheelhouse, Doogie.
Oh, yeah.
This will make you feel old, though,
old
if you've never heard of that one.
I
can one-up you on feeling old. I'm at the point where I find, like, cloudy, rainy days, I feel like tired and I'm just
emotional.
Yeah, I'm just like I said to myself, and like I was with my girls this weekend in Collingwood, and I'm like, I'm a little bit like kind of just grumpy and like tired, and I'm like, it's the weather. I actually said that. I'm like, it's the weather.
Yeah.
I didn't go as far as to say I get like this when this weather, but I'm like, how old are you to be tired and a little bit grumpy when it's rainy and cold? Like that's
troubling.
Old, that's old behavior.
Troubling.
Man.
How much golf do you guys have left?
Not much. That's
Dude,
what
that's
really
where I think
sucks,
that's where I think you guys were heading. It's like this is the end is
2
here,
months.
right? Like
less than 2 months. Like weather like today, you'll be praying for this in 2 months.
That's right.
Where it's 13.
Oh, I don't
raining.
think it depends. Like the thing that sucks is there's no waiting around to see if you're going to get one of those summers that extends into the fall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because courses just have a drop dead day where they're like, we're closing. We don't care if it's sunny in December.
Yeah, exactly. Some of it's an employment thing. And
when's the latest you can remember that you've golfed in the city, in this area, in Toronto?
There's
like into November. Like
I've had guys at Weston say, I've had guys at Weston say they were playing golf December 10th at Weston.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 years ago, there was a winter that was out. It was like gorgeous out.
Mm-hmm. I remember
there was no winter.
We went up to TPC. Remember that was like November 23rd or 4th with Lawrence, and we were up there. We were in like a golf shirt and pants, and it was November 25th or something like that.
And the track was decent?
And it was beautiful. And we were like,
it was perfect.
Exactly. We were speaking with ownership up there, and they're like, we may just stay open again for the weekend. Like, it was one of those where you're playing it by ear because it was so nice, and so many people are dying to still play. But up here, you know what's coming. It's like Game of Thrones, right? Like, winter is coming, and it's just a matter of time before it gets hit. But before that, we'll get some golf in, and the President's Cup will be great. That's another thing. You go up to Montreal in a couple of weeks. Like, who knows what the weather will be like at that tournament?
Yeah.
Like the Ryder Cup, President's Cup. If it's played in the Northeast in September, you don't know. I mean, it could be 10 degrees.
I just hope it's not piss and rain. That
I know. Rain is the worst. Like you can, if it's just 8 or 10 degree, you layer up. Those guys, they'll throw toques on and they'll play. Like I remember Whistling Straits a couple of years ago. It was cold, man. I was in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
In late September, and they were teeing off like their morning rounds, and it was like 8 degrees.
Yeah.
You know, like that's cold to play golf in, but you get up for it and you go out and play, and crowds will be jacked, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really cool scene there. All right, so we've got the Monday Nighter tonight. We'll get to that a little bit later this afternoon, a little bit later this hour, I should say. Jets Niners on TSN Radio and on TSN tonight. The pick is in for those that are curious, whether it's to bet for it or fade it. Hayes and Bro is on the Jets tonight, taking the points, plus 4.5.
I'm sorry, dude. I think there's a chance of a San Fran route. Like,
well, it's
in San Fran.
Possible, yeah. It's in San Francisco tonight.
It's anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
Rodgers could go crazy, but I got a feeling. Do you want to side a little? We'll talk privately.
Yeah,
sure. We'll talk privately because I'm riding with the Jets. Jets. Al's brother is convinced. He loves the points. I think it'll be a close game, though. I think it'll be a good game. I think the Jets are a good team. Niners are a good team. I would anticipate it's a close game, so it's probably going to come down to the fourth quarter, and we're going to see if Aaron Rodgers has anything left, right, to make something happen here. All right, Chris Johnston coming up here in a moment. Rookie camps, I guess, open up, later this week, I think, and then we're about a week and a half away from the real stuff, and by next weekend, we're going to have games.
Yeah.
Like NHL games, like I was seeing video today, everyone's doing these everyone's basically in their respective cities. Yeah. Like in Edmonton, I saw it was like McDavid, Draisaitl, High, like they're all out there. I'm sure everyone's in Toronto by now. Be shocked if they weren't. And we're going to get some news cooking here soon.
Right, Masters will be kicking around. Like these are informal skates, right? You can't. By the letter of the PA,
no coaches.
You can't have coaches, but you can have. You might be able to have development people or something like that.
No coaches, but they're allowed to sit and watch.
Yeah, I guess you're allowed to be around. You can't kick people out of a building. And the media can get
I
in if
always
they know
found that
when.
funny how they're just hockey. Like they're dying to watch hockey, even if it's their own players scrimmaging.
We'll have to ask. Craig Berube's coaching and that. Like I played with him in Calgary, and I signed there. I got traded there, and Drome is a good friend of mine, and we had an informal skate about a week before training camp. And I got so buckled the night before the skate. And I showed up there. It was the first time that the guys actually got on the ice with me. And I did not get in the way of anything.
Yeah, it's just
and
terrible
I remember
outing.
Craig Berube said to Jerome, he goes, I got a buddy, because he grew up in Calahoo, Alberta. I got a buddy from Calahoo. Can I get him to sign with the team too? I was so bad. I shouldn't have gone on the ice.
Yeah, that's where you should have
that was
taken
my
the
mistake.
option.
I shouldn't have gone on the ice.
Bad hammy.
But I was trying to, okay, I make a good impression. Like, it was bad. It was bad.
The old Eddie Belfort, just stand there and hope it hits you.
It was not good.
I love those moves. All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. What's up, CJ?
Not much, boys. How are you?
We're well, I guess. Yeah, football's in the air, hockey's in the air. It's hockey weather outside in Toronto today. It certainly was all weekend, and I guess we're getting closer to day one of camp. And we just referenced Craig Berube. How different would you anticipate? His tone, his approach, his camp, the way he operates. How different do you think the Leafs will feel this year with Berube as the head coach compared to the Sheldon Keefe years?
Well, I think especially that first, month or couple months, it's obviously going to be different. I mean, he does set a tone. It's the person that is running the team. It's on things, obviously, that Noodles and Oka talk about, the players behind the scenes, but we'll be looking at the line combinations, how he handles questions. Does he keep, Matthews and Marner together? How does he respond maybe early in the year if there's a tough week in October? I mean, I think you're almost – obviously, he's a known commodity. He's coached around the league prior to this, but he's going to take a fresh approach at a team. Quite frankly, that a lot of the same pieces are in place, right? I mean, we spent the whole offseason focused on the fact that the Leafs are going to return with their main core pieces still in place, but he's going to have a different view of maybe how to make that work or how to try to coax more out of them. So I do think it'll be an interesting camp for that reason alone. And, certainly he's going to put his own style to things. I think, Sheldon was pretty honest, I felt, when he dealt with the media. We'll see how Craig Berube, reacts getting dropped into this market. But it's going to be a fun few weeks as we get to see basically what he's been writing all these lineups on a napkin since he got hired in May. But the rubber's about to hit the road.
CJ, have you heard anything about messaging to the players? It's like this guy's been brought in here to try to get them over the hump. Like, have you heard any players say it's just going to be a lot different with Craig as our coach because that's not going to be acceptable anymore, or this because that's his only goal is to get his team to play better come April? And what is he possibly going to do to get these guys to do differently on the ice?
Well, one thing I know is he spent a lot of time meeting face to face with guys. The top guys multiple times, not just, a first copy meeting or something where you're introducing yourself. I think that he's spent a lot of this offseason, trying to get a head start on some of those relationships. I don't know how it's going to be. I mean, it's tough to say. I think that he understands the players, especially some of the main players, are under a fair bit of heat in the market. With the number of years that they've gone out in the first round or just, not really got close to knocking on the door of trying to be the championship team, that we've probably spent 4 or 5 years thinking this could be the Leafs year if things fall into place, and they haven't really had that kind of run. I think, as much as people expect them, I think to bring a harder touch, I wonder if maybe he goes a little different direction, if some of how he starts off is trying to free these guys up. But it's one thing to start that way. It's quite another thing, as you get into November or December, you might get to a point where things aren't going well for whatever reason, either for individuals or for the team, and he might have to adjust that. But, I don't think he's going to come in. My best guess is he's not going to come in with it's not going to be all the stick. I think there's going to be a little bit of carrot in there too, as he finds his way with this group.
CJ, have you heard any updates or your thoughts on the Nick Robertson situation? We've talked about it before. The left side is probably, the area where there is the biggest question marks and some opportunity. And it certainly would be nice to have him in training camp battling for one of those spots.
Exactly. My sense is it's going to come to a head here, because ultimately you can ask for a trade, but, in this case, it's hard to force a trade. And, where this gets real now is, we're into a fresh week here, and next week, the training camp is alive and well. And, players around the league are, working on their fitness, working on getting up to game speed, doing everything they need to do to have the best season possible. And I think, as much as Nick Robertson might not be happy or had some concerns about the way his development's gone in the organization, does he really want to miss that time at his age? Does he, how dug in is he? And so, I don't have maybe what I call a concrete update, but, I do think that the tone of those discussions gets, much more real when you're this close to camp because, there's business consequences, but there's also, I think, on some level, just being ready for, a year in the most competitive league in the world. I mean, every day missed or every week missed, carries some consequences. So, to me, this one doesn't make a lot of sense to be dragged out. I don't really know what Nick Robertson would gain from that. And so, if I had to handicap it, I'd say it's way more likely than not that he's signing with the Leafs ahead of camp. But we'll have to see. It really comes down to how dug in is he on his position? Is he willing to, potentially miss time in order to make, this trade request maybe have some more teeth than it has until this point?
With Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. As for Mitch Marner, we'll get to some other pending UFAs after this upcoming season. I saw Sid was talking on his situation a moment ago down in New York. But with Marner, what is your read on his situation? And would anything surprise you? Like anything that came up between now and camp or now in the beginning of the start of the season? Could anything happen that would be like, wow, that I didn't see that coming, or I'm shocked that took place one way or the other?
Well, if they pulled a Dak Prescott and announced a big contract extension on the first day of the season, that would probably surprise me. Mm-hmm. Just because I think both sides are comfortable letting this breathe a little bit. That doesn't mean it goes right down to June 30th or midnight on July 1st next year. But I think the Leafs are in a position as an organization where they can take some time. Everything, they don't need to force that decision. And I think Mitch Marner is way more than comfortable, letting things play out as well. And, I think he's going to have a great season, but it's been a good summer for him, and that he's fine to let it wait. So to me, the surprise at this point would be action. I think if this just goes, and I'm sorry for the sirens. I'm in New York City here for some meetings, so can't ignore the background noise, unfortunately, when you're in Manhattan. But, I do think that if there was anything that got finalized, that would be surprising. I think really we're going to have to see how this develops over the early stage of the season. Does one side or the other start to feel a pressure point? Either, like Nylander last year, it's such a great start. I think there was some heat on the Leafs to sign the extension they basically did with him. It could go either way. I mean, there's risk in all these things. I mean, if Marner, for whatever reason, he gets injured or goes through a slump of some sort, I mean, he might be feeling the pressure of that contract, but I don't think there's any pressure today. And so, I think he's comfortable with his role on the team. I think he's going to be given the primetime minutes and a chance to do what he's done in past seasons. And, we'll see what happens off ice with this contract situation in the months ahead.
And I referenced Sidney Crosby's down there in New York doing the rounds, and he sounds like he's pretty certain a contract will get signed before this camp opens. He's got a year left on his deal, and I guess that puts it all to bed, right? Like once he signs, CJ, that's it. He's just a Penguin for life. He'll retire there, and we stop talking about it, or do you see it differently?
I won't go quite that far, but yeah, I mean, look, it's this guy, he's, I don't think anybody's doubt how much he's all in on the Penguins. I think he'd love it perfectly to have his whole career there. To me, even if he signs an extension, though, the question is if they don't take a step forward this year, if they miss the playoffs again, let's say he signs for a 1 or 2 year extension, and he feels that they're not going to get better. I mean, I guess there could still be some world where, he wants to play somewhere else. But
why would he sign there if he doesn't think they're going to get better, or if they don't get better? That's the question, because it's a big if, CJ.
It is. Well, I mean, here's the thing. If it was me, but I mean, he and I have nothing in common. I've never been great at anything like he is. But I would have said, why is he even thinking of signing there now? It's nothing to do with, because I think it's a great. He still plays at such a high level for a player entering, this deep into his career. It's hard for any of us, I would think, to look at that roster and think they could be a Stanley Cup contender. But, obviously he's got deep ties to that city, the place he's lived the most in his life. He's 3-time Cup winner with the organization. I think for him, even the idea of moving is probably hard to process. But, I still say stay tuned here. I'm sure he doesn't want to be a distraction. And as much as, you have Steven Stamkos, for example, play out his last year in Tampa. Last year was pretty quiet. I just don't think it'll be that quiet if Crosby doesn't sign an extension, going into the season. He's going to, Pittsburgh comes to Toronto earlier in the year. I just think it will be a main, talking point until he signs it. I think you sign the extension, though, actually maybe to answer the question, because it quiets things down, and you could still, at some point, at least consider a trade if your mind changes. But, it just doesn't feel in the cards. It doesn't feel like he's likely to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're 37, 38, you're still a 90-point player, still so effective. I mean, how many years do you want to play for a team that can't win? I mean, I can't answer that. I think really only one person can. I mean, that's what's unique about this. It's not like there's no fight about money here. I mean, whatever Sidney Crosby decides is what will happen. But, clearly he and his agents and his family, they haven't made up their minds on how this is going to go just yet. And so it kind of sits out there as an unanswered question, and we'll see how things look in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, like within the NHL, because you have Sid who's still there, you got Ovi still there, and the two of them are chasing like monster numbers. And they've done everything in their career. They've won cups, they've won MVPs, and yet now you got this next wave where I don't know if Bedard is down there, but like Connor Bedard hit the ground running last year. I think he's going to be great this year. Like I think he'll take that next step.
They got some NHL players on that roster this year,
right? And like the team should get better. And I guess what I'm asking is like the marketing campaign. You're down there. They're marketing players. They're marketing the league. Like, do Sid and Ovi still hold not the same weight they did a decade ago, clearly, but like where do they land in the pecking order in terms of the NHL's priority of profiling and marketing? Like, where would you say the two of them still stand in line on that?
Well, I mean, they're fair or not. I think they've been relegated to the second tier at minimum. I mean, this is Connor McDavid's league. I think someone like Austin Matthews, similar age to McDavid, and obviously all the things he's achieved so far, like they're probably more front and center nowadays. But I mean, look, we're also entering a year where it's maybe not likely, but Ovechkin is at least within spitting distance, or you can at least imagine a world where he passes Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record this season. So that is going to get a lot of attention. I think this is why. And again, I'm putting a marketer's hat on it. I'm putting a reporter's hat on this. I realize there's a lot more to consider than those things, but that's why if Crosby did ever agree to a move or force a move, whatever you call it, to one of the league's top contenders, I mean that would be pretty darn compelling, I would think, for the NHL, because it might be a chance. He won as the youngest captain in league history to win a Stanley Cup when Pittsburgh won back in 2009. I mean, he's got a chance now to be one of the older guys that can maybe help push another team over the top. I don't know if he's there personally. And so I think those players, they certainly have massive legacy values. We're going to see them dropping pucks and appearing at NHL events for the next 30, 40 years because of what they meant to the sport. But, we're in the McDavid era now, and I think probably Edmonton might be the most compelling team just to start the season, just given how close they were last year. They've got the Tri-Title contract done. McDavid's future, it will be a talking point. And I don't want to say Crosby and Ovechkin have pushed aside, but time marches on, and that's kind of where we're at.
CJ, the media event in New York, like, are the veteran guys, or is it in Vegas, the media thing? Is it in Vegas every year?
It's in Vegas right now. I'm actually not at that event. I'm at another meeting that I shouldn't discuss on the radio.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Anyway, that media, you talk about veteran guys, like, do they even want to go to that thing? It's like every year, and it's the same guys have to go. Are they at a point where it's like, just get a young guy to go, because I'm just not doing it?
Well, I think the sales pitch to them is you go for 2 days and you do all these things, and then we're not going to bug you for the next month. So I think the sales pitch is that it's a chance to really take care of a lot of things. They go on ice. All those hype videos we show when we got a Leafs game on Tuesday night and you see players skating around. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens at an event like the one they're having down in Vegas. Obviously, there's interviews and other things. So I don't know how much they like it. I'm sure most guys don't. But I'll say I've covered a lot of those media tours, they're called. And, sometimes it is not just the obvious subjects. I mean, the McDavids and the Matthews and the McKinnons are there regularly, but sometimes teams use it as a chance to send a player, Cole Perfetti's, for example, going from Winnipeg. It's probably pretty cool when you're younger and don't have the, maybe not quite as jaded yet or don't have a certain view of the media. But, I mean, let's call it as it is. I think it's probably the part of the job most players don't love. A few guys out there love it, and most of those guys end up working in media afterwards like you two.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, these guys, I'm sure you two would have loved being down there all the time. Although Vegas wouldn't have been in the rotation. You guys would have been going to like Detroit or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for sure.
Windsor.
Yeah, Windsor. Exactly. Vegas is an easy sell. All right, CJ, enjoy yourself down there, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
All right, boys. Be well.
Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey insider, joining us here in the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Secret meetings.
Yeah, secret James Bond stuff going down there with CJ. What's he up to in New York?
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe meeting with Gary.
Yes.
If it's secret, it's probably not a positive light story anyway, so let's not dig too deep.
He's meeting with Gary.
Could be.
A guy named Gary.
Someone named Gary in Manhattan, New York City. But, we'll see. We're getting close to go time. And Sid, again, is going to sign. And
I got something for you guys, though. Do you think, now this would be more of a Jerry's or something we can do it this week, Ovi hitting 42 this year?
I don't think he's going to get to that number.
I don't either. But, I mean, if he has a good start.
Last year was reversed. Remember, he had a
terrible
horrible
start,
then he got cooking down the stretch.
Well, he had eight goals, didn't he?
What was his total? 36 last year?
He hit 30-something, I believe. I'm pretty sure he got to 30.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 36.
It might have been close to the number 30.
Yeah. Let me check.
I don't know if he gets
40.
31. Yeah, 31.
I don't
but he
think
needs 42 to pass, right? 41 to tie. He's at 853.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to bet against the guy, but he's just,
I know.
he's getting older every single year.
39, and he's 39 September 17th. So it would be a play as a 39.
So what's your Jerry's that he scores 42 this year?
15%.
Yeah, I was going to be in
It's pretty low. It's got to be low.
low double digits.
He scored 42 2 years ago, though.
That's what I mean.
Like he
needs 42.
And he's got Pierre-Luc Dubois now.
Exactly.
So let's not sell him short. Maybe PLD shows up and just starts throwing.
Are you crazy, man? That brings the percentages down.
Well, that's all he's gonna get. He's gonna play his 20 minutes because he averaged a lot of ice time last year. He was playing and he stayed healthy. He played 79 games.
He had 8 goals in his first 41 games last year. We were talking this guy's going to get 12, 15
How crazy
goals.
is that? 23 in the second half.
Yeah, but
that's a 46 goal pace the way he played down the stretch.
if he has a good start, yeah, you're right. PLD, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome,
Still got
Mangiapane,
Carlson.
they trade for. Jacob Chikrin, they traded for. Your boy Rasmus Sandin is in the mix there.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're a playoff team. I know they got in last year, but
They're close.
The
They
playoffs
traded
don't
for
matter
Logan
that
Thompson,
much.
too. They got 2 lefty goalies there.
Do they?
Yeah, Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson.
That's got to be a unique parlay.
I don't know. That's probably a crazy stat. When's the last time a team had 2 lefty goalies? Like 2 as their tandem.
Mm-hmm.
That's Lindgren.
I don't think it's probably ever happened.
I don't know. I mean, Darren Pupa. Did Pupa have a backup that was a lefty? Who else is a famous? Tony Esposito.
Grant Fuhrer a lefty?
Here's he's a lefty.
Yeah, Grant Fuhrer. If you were in Poopa, might have been in Toronto.
Your buddy,
at the same
Tommy
time.
B. Tommy Brasso.
Oh, there you go. There's actually been a fair amount of Leafs who have come through like that.
Lefty goalies?
Yeah. Well, the two of them played here anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been two lefty goalies. Like, that would jam a player up. In practice, all you're doing is shooting on a lefty goalie, and then you get into
you
games.
You need a third goalie who's the proper
traditional,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you think of guys that get certain spots, and a lefty goalie, like the glove is on the other side, and like tendencies are big for players, right?
Absolutely. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Jets, Niners tonight. We'll head out to the Bay Area, catch up with Bob Wischusen. He is the radio commentator for the New York Jets radio network, and we'll get Bob to tell us what does he see out of Rodgers, what does he see out of the Jets as we go into the finale of Week 1 tonight, Monday Night Football right here on TSN. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. On the Jets, taking the points tonight, 4.5. Love it. Partsy loves it. I love it. Hazenbro all over it. Plus 4.5. Breece Hall, anytime touchdown score. And Jets total points for the game over 19.5. If I think they're going to cover, I think they could win. I think they're going to score some points tonight. That parlay paying plus 261. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Same-game parlays this NFL season now include passing touchdowns and receptions on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus. Physically located in Ontario. So under the lights, Bay Area, San Fran. It's going to be electric tonight. And Aaron Rodgers is from Northern California.
Yeah.
Too, right? Well, I guess his family probably won't be there. Because I don't think he's on good terms with them.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I want to
something
see
on
this
there.
Netflix special.
Yeah, that's coming out in December, I think.
That'll give you a real glimpse into what this guy's like behind the scenes.
Depending on how much control
If
he's
you're
got.
a little bit Looney Tune, you're not going to disclose. You're not going to uncover that for the world to see.
I don't think he cares, man. Aaron just says what he wants to say.
Yeah.
Like he's going on Pat McAfee every week doing that. He doesn't need Netflix for that. Aaron, like if he's got control, then I don't know if he's got editorial control. But I'll check that out. I'll check out some Aaron Rodgers
Didn't Jordan
content.
have editorial control for him?
I think he did for The Last Dance or whatever. All right, Jets, Niners. Let's head out there. Here he is from the New York Jets radio network, Bob Wischusen, back on Overdrive. What's happening, Bob?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're doing well, man. What do you? Let's begin with Rodgers. Give us your reasons for optimism tonight on what we're going to see out of Aaron Rodgers. If you believe, why do you believe that he's going to show up and play well tonight?
He's really friggin' good.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that enough?
Well, he hasn't played in a year and a half,
How's
but
that for
yeah,
how's that for expert analysis?
I like it.
I mean, yeah, I watched him through training camp, and all I can say is he looked great. Right, so we'll see tonight. You're right. I mean, will there be a rust factor when the actual, the live bullets are flying? I guess that could be. And, the entirety of training camp, he's out there with a red jersey on. So tonight he gets hit for the first time in a long time. But he really moved well and looked good. And it was a hard training camp. He talked about it. They had him out there good on good, a lot more than he's ever been used to in training camp on purpose. And I think he feels like he's ready. So we'll see. They're going up against a really good defense, though.
What was the anxiety level in training camp of every time that guy was making quick movements or game-simulated movements watching that ankle? Like, were people on pins and needles? How long did it take to get over that?
Yeah, I think they got over that pretty quick. I mean, that was a freak injury, right? Like, if you went back and looked at it, part of it, obviously, his age. But part of it was, he kind of toe-picked and got hit at, like, the perfect spot, the wrong way. It just, you're not worried about a guy with, a red non-contact jersey on tearing an Achilles again. And, when you saw him out there and you saw him and the way he was moving around, and obviously the one Achilles now is surgically repaired, so that's not going to tear again. So I think obviously we could tear the other one. I mean, look, anything could happen. Mm-hmm. But I think they got over that anxiety pretty quick when they saw him moving around and moving as well as he was moving.
So in terms of handling the hype and handling the expectations, because you look at this Jets team on paper, and Bob, you see them up close and personal every day. They look great. I mean, their defense is elite. They have weapons all over the field. They've upgraded their offensive line. Now you got Rodgers back and he's healthy. Like, everything's pointing in the direction of the Jets, doing some damage this year. How have they addressed those expectations? How do you think Robert Saleh, in particular, as the head coach, is going to handle and I guess drive through those expectations once we start playing ball tonight?
They've been pretty businesslike. They really have. Robert Saleh said it multiple times. He said, they're kind of tired of winning the offseason. They get it, right? You have to win football games. Winning the press conferences, winning the offseason, winning April and May and June is not what it's about anymore. And, I think that they are as tired of losing as their fan base is of watching it. So, yeah, I don't get the feeling like this is a group that's, at all reading their own press clippings or, that you have to be nervous about having any level of overconfidence. I mean, as an organization, remember, right now they're tied with the Buffalo Sabres for longest stretch in North American sports without appearing in the playoffs, right? Like, they know that. They're pretty focused on, kind of that one game at a time, go accomplish the goal mindset. This is not, there's no level of overconfidence with this group. They have a lot of faith, obviously, in the quarterback and what they can do, and I think how good they can be. I mean, last year they won 7 games. There was this idea last year they were almost this kind of punchline dumpster fire. I mean, they won 7 games last year. They didn't have the first pick in the draft.
Right.
Like, they picked 10th. I mean, a third of the teams in the league were right about, them or worse. And they had historically bad quarterback play last year. So their defense knows how good they can be. And there was no mutiny in the locker room last year. There really wasn't, a lot of finger pointing. I thought Robert Saleh did a great job of keeping them together. They won a couple games at the end of the year when they have absolutely nothing to play for. So, I think they're a really competitive group that really likes each other. Like, I think there's a great chemistry in that locker room. You see a lot of, kind of social media videos of guys out together celebrating each other's birthdays, like good things like that, where there's camaraderie and guys pulling for each other. So I think they have a really good feeling about the team they've put together.
Well, that's a good sign going into tonight. Jets-Niners, we're chatting with the voice of the Jets, Bob Wischusen. Again, the game on TSN tonight, TSN Radio tonight. In terms of Aaron Rodgers and the way he has been received there, in Green Bay his whole career, smallest market in North American sports, now the biggest market in North American sports. 4 snaps, he goes down. He's always got something to say. We were talking about it prior to having you on, Bob. He's got this Netflix thing coming up. In terms of New York embracing him, does it have to be on the field? The chapters that he still has to write in terms of winning, losing, actually performing, how important is that in order for him to put a stake in the ground and be known as a guy that, made his bones in New York, so to speak?
Oh, yeah. I mean, nobody in New York, is famous just for being famous,
right?
At least in sports, right? Like, all of our sports legends are known for what they've accomplished. And he can be immortal. If he does this with the Jets, he's Messier, right? Like, he's done the impossible. He's taken the cursed franchise and taken them to the place nobody could do it. So he will be remembered in that way. There's kind of a Mount Rushmore of guys in New York that are thought of as the leader, kind of the first face you think of when you think of championship teams. Jeter with the Yankees and, guys like that. Obviously Messier with the Rangers Cup team. And I mean, he's on that list if he does it with the Jets. He would be more beloved than maybe Jeter would be. I mean, this fan base, the Jet fan base, I think probably consider themselves the most starved of any of the New York fan bases that have ever, kind of gone through the years hoping their team could finally get them to kind of the promised land. And if he does that, then, that's it. I mean, he'll be right there alongside those guys forever. And it won't matter, whose TV show he was on or what Netflix series he did. Like
Right.
they won't care about that. Just go throw some touchdown passes and bring us to New Orleans this year. That's what they're hoping for. That's really all they care about.
That makes sense. Well, it starts tonight, Bob. I know it's a busy time. We really appreciate you finding time for us. Thank you for this.
You got it, guys.
There's Bob Wischusen of ESPN New York. Jets.
Big ask, man.
Play-by-play.
Yeah.
Big ask. Like it's like 0 to 100. It's like you're tied with the Sabres. By the way, how many years is that?
I think that's at least 11 years now. Like the Sabres.
Without playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think the Sabres have been there since like
dozen.
2012 or something. Yeah, maybe.
So
13.
you're asking, like, Aaron Rodgers is no kid anymore. It's just, don't just get in the playoffs. Like, be Messier and win the Super Bowl. Like, that's a big ask for everyone else with no experience.
Big time.
Like, there's not that run where it's like, okay, we got to this, and then now we got to build up that. It's just go ahead, win the Super Bowl. I think it's completely unreasonable to expect that.
It's asking a lot, and
Dude, it's just
that's why.
let alone Rodgers. He has the experience, Hayes, but how many other important guys have zero experience? And it's just like, well, he's going to be Messier, and it's like, okay, what about everyone else?
That's New York fans, though. That's what it is. I mean,
I guess if you're going to have expectations, what the hell? Make them sky high.
Listen, the Jets, they haven't won a Super Bowl since the 60s. Like, they're deprived. There's a lot of similarities to the team up here. And they're also competing within their market. Like, the Giants, I think, are a more popular team in New York.
yeah, I think the Giants
Like, they have more history there.
carry more weight there. Yeah.
So you're fighting for that. You're fighting for profile. You want to be on the big stage. You're in the city. It's... I don't know. I mean, it's an unbelievable city with a great sports history, and we're talking legends like what Messier did, what Jeter did. I guess you could maybe say Eli Manning would represent that to an extent in terms of modern history with the Giants. Jets are looking for it. But that's why last year was such a missed opportunity because I think people were reasonable, or at least I was. Like last year was about, okay, get your feet wet in New York, get through.
Yeah.
Maybe you win 10 games, get into the playoffs. Maybe you win a game, you lose in the divisional round. It's like, all right,
Year's
now it's
wiped
set.
out.
Next year you go to the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
that didn't happen. So
No.
now you're running out of time because he'll be 41 in December. And
I don't know.
it's not going to get better.
I'm curious to see him tonight. Like if he just, Luke thinks he's going to be all hopped up and ready to rock and look like 22 years old out there. I don't know. I mean, San Fran's going to have something to say about it. Like
They will. They will. I'm watching the Monday Night Football crew there. Jason Kelsey's making his debut on ESPN tonight. And I guess he had to buy a shirt from a store because he lost his travel bag or forgot it in his truck. He's got this dress
He's the
shirt
complete
that's so
opposite of his
tight.
brother, right?
Oh, yeah. He'd rather go no shirt if he
Yeah.
could.
That's awesome.
But, I forgot that he's making his debut. A lot of debuts.
He'll
Yeah,
be
Tom
good.
Brady and Jason Kelsey. over the
Jason
last 2
Kelsey's
days.
going to be, I think he'll be a natural instantly.
And he's
just-
on the panel's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You're feeding off different guys, more time to breathe.
They'll set him
You're
up.
formulating opinions.
They'll make him look good. But I just think, I feel like he's very, through the podcast, you can just tell, like he's a very comfortable speaking, speaks
Yeah.
his mind. He's
Easy guy to like, too. Yeah.
That's
He's
that's
really
where I
easy to
thought
like.
Brady, I thought Brady would have been unbelievable on a panel
Yeah.
because I don't know.
You can put your thoughts together, like you can.
I just
plan
think that,
stuff out and-
somebody described what it's like being the color guy. It's like you got to get in, get out, and it's like I just think him sitting there with a little bit more time and going in depth on some certain thing. I think that's where he would excel.
Yes.
So I'm not saying it's a mistake after 1 week him being in the booth, but I think he would be at his best on a panel.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys see him doing color in 20 years?
No.
Absolutely not. I
Like-
see him doing it 1 year, and if he doesn't get better, he'll pack it in and say, "This is just not for me.
Yeah.
I want to get into some type of ownership, coaching, whatever."
Well, he owns 10% of the Raiders.
Yeah. He's.
Like, that's another thing that makes it complicated. He's not allowed in on certain meetings because other teams are like, we're not giving you anything.
Yeah.
You're an owner of a team.
Yeah.
So-
I don't see this being a long-term thing for him, but I like the fact that when he retired, he's not just sitting on a yacht. Like he wants to work. He's doing-
375 schmil that kind of helps that.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, it all was. I don't think that's guaranteed if he walks out the door. I think
No,
that's
it's not a Deshaun Watson contract.
right. Like I think he's trying this out. Obviously, they give him a big deal, but if it doesn't work, there's probably an out for both sides. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
I mean, he would have had a lot of leverage, though. Like the out, I guarantee you he's got a better out than Fox.
Yeah, oh, yeah. But
in other words, I'll bet you he can do it as long as he wants, and Fox is like, what are we going to do? Like, they're not going to fire Tom Brady. And it's one game. It's his first game.
And he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't.
It just wasn't great. It was stiff. He needs, like, his voice, there needs to be more range. Just I know I sound ridiculous, but your emotional swings have to come and go.
Believe me.
There needs to be, and it wasn't a great game either because the Cowboys just jumped on them and the Browns were terrible. And you give them a game where it's electric and great quarterbacking and all that kind of stuff.
I was just looking for analysis. Like I was, for him to point things out. Because that's what Romo does. That's what a lot of these great color guys, you want to teach them. Like, tell me. Like, Romo tells me stuff. You listen to Luke Wilson talk. Like,
Collinsworth, I find, is the best. Like
he's very sharp.
He's great.
He's sharp. He's just his guy. I don't know. They just get this sound where you're comfortable with the sound of it, and everything seems to make sense after that. Where you're like, I believe that guy.
Well,
and
last
he's
night,
invested and he's emotional, and I love it.
That's what it is. It sounds like he's still got so much passion, which I'm sure he does have a lot of passion for it. And Aikman's outstanding. And like last night, Collinsworth had that call on that Stafford throw at the end of the game where he threw it across his body, and I think he hit Cooper Kupp. And before you saw the replay, you couldn't tell it live. He's on it. And he's like, oh, man, wait till you see this pass. You know how he speaks. And he's like, this might be the greatest pass you're ever going to see. And then they show it, and you're like, man, that's a really good pass. Yeah, and it's like Collinsworth caught it.
Yeah, he
saw it, and he knew it. And I don't know if he went to his producer or vice versa, and he's like, give me that because I got something here.
Yeah.
And he teased it, and he sold it, and it popped, and you're like, that's great TV.
Yeah.
But it's like that. Like you got to see it. You got to know it was great.
Right.
And you got to play it.
Brady would see it, but you got to articulate it in a second.
And be comfortable to jump.
Be talking to your producer. I guarantee these are the best of the best. I'm really lucky. I work with the best of the best. Those guys make us look good every night because they'll say, hey, we got something here. We got this. Or they're on it.
Yes.
Like the people, I call them the people in the van. It's not. It's big truck, dome production. But they're sharp, man. They're sharp, and they'll help. Brady is going to get better. I think the expectation is what O said at the start of the show. It's Romo, what Romo's like. You're looking at Brady. I just wanted to see personality. Mm-hmm. Like, I want Tom to have a joke or, like, have some fun. Like, it didn't look fun for him. It should be fun. It's sports.
Yeah,
it's entertainment.
Exactly. That's a good point, Noodles. Like, no matter how serious he is or what is, like, if he doesn't have something that'll make somebody giggle at home, maybe that's just not for him. You got to have some fun.
You're in the entertainment business. Like, that's what it is. He's not going into surgery. Not working on anybody. He's talking about football.
Yeah.
You should make it fun. Like, enjoy it.
Exactly. That's what people want. They want everyone involved to be having a great time. It feel like this is the biggest game of all time.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do, but that's what happens when the lights go on, the mics go on. That's part of the business. I feel good being able to tell Tom Brady how it works. There's a part of me that's like, hey, man, welcome to my world. You're a broadcaster now.
Yeah.
Like,
Can you imagine how many of his friends, like, ill-advised got in his ear with their 2 cents today?
Oh, that would drive you crazy. Them texting,
dude.
Tommy, what are you doing, man? Or like,
why'd you make that call there? Why weren't you a little bit more excited here? I would go crazy. I would delete numbers.
Knowing him, though, he probably went back and watched that and went through with, because they would be on top of it. You do an on-air check, like he would go through it 25 times.
100%, he's tracking everything.
So, I mean, I think it's a comfort thing. I'd like to see him 5 games in, see how he actually is going to be on air.
I wonder what game he's going to have next week. I'm sure they were promoting it and I didn't see it, but
I've got some news on lefty goalies. Somebody wrote Brasso and Pupa in Buffalo
were teammates.
Were goalies, and there was one, I think,
lefty.
There was 3. It was like Theodore Vokoun and somebody else.
Okay.
Pat Jablonski.
Not familiar.
In Montreal. Those were 3 lefties.
Come on, man. I'm going to be like your daughter. I played with Pat Jablonski. You never heard of him?
That's your guy, Pat Jablonski? I'll look
Jabber.
him up.
I played with his twin. He had a twin brother named Jeremy Jablonski.
Jeremy Jablonski?
Yeah, I played with Jabber.
Great handle.
Yeah.
All right. Monday Night Football. We'll come back, tee it up Jays Mets down at the Dome. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
This is where the Hayes and Co, Hayes and Bro, I feel there should be a redo because I feel cheated. Christian McCaffrey's not playing tonight, and I don't think that that's fair.
Oh, really?
I honestly don't.
Okay.
Like
Does
the
line
biggest
change,
game
though?
breaker in the league.
Yeah.
The biggest game breaker in the league, and I just feel cheated, to be honest.
I understand that. I mean, there's nothing we can do. The pick is in.
Obviously.
I'm looking at FanDuel. The number hasn't moved. I mean, he's a running back. If a quarterback leaves, usually the number will move. I'm guessing this will get bet down towards the Jets by the time we get to action tonight. Probably be 4, maybe 3.5. But the pick is in. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We made the pick. We're on the Jets plus 4.5.
I hate it.
You know what I feel
Well,
for
Luke
is-
Wilson's got some language.
he's already
in the group
chirping.
chat.
He's
Yeah,
already.
got
You
some
guys are in the
language
lead.
for
That's how soft you guys are. That's how much they fear us, Noodles. Do you realize this? They
Dude,
have
that guy
no
was
backbone.
he's good for a 2-spot a night.
I know he's a stud.
2
Let's-
TDs a night.
Do you know how many fantasy teams picked him first overall, and this guy's out, and it's the calf injury? Like, this is going to affect his whole season. It just feels like it. I don't want to throw that into the universe, but
Well, it
feels
happens
like
every year with him.
I know he's hurt a lot. Gets hurt a lot. All right, boys. Here we go. Go time tonight.
Be a
See
good
what
one.
comes of it. Hayes and Bro on the Jets plus 4.5. Good stuff to everyone behind the scenes. Thank you for helping out. Everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate it. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Brock Purdy, you're my new guy. Let's go Niners.
God bless.
4 p.m.
Your new
4
Gary.
p.m.
Yeah, you're not Gary.
We'll chat then.